This episode of Linux Action Show is brought to you by GoDaddy.com. Use the code Linux and save.
Welcome to Linux Action Show, Season 25, Episode 7. My name is Chris.
My name is Matt.
Well, hey there, Matt. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Should I tell folks about the big show?
Let's hear it.
All right, it's a big episode. So today, we're going to cover podcasting under Linux. And it's not just necessarily podcasting, it's also sort of the state of media production under Linux and what Linux is strong at this point. And then also during the news segment, we're going to do a little mini KDE 4.10 review. I've been running it all week, right? Well, not all week, but running it for 48 hours.
All week. Mind you.
All week.
It felt like all week.
It did, yeah, it did. So I got it right here on my machine, and we'll do a review of that later on today.
Yeah.
So that'll be good. And we're also going to do a little giveaway coming up.
Nice. You're going to like this.
Yeah, and we got some great feedback questions we're going to answer today. But first, it is our picks. Are you ready for an awesome Runs Linux, Matt?
Oh, I love an awesome Runs Linux.
So we've covered the whole journey of SpaceX and the private space flight in SciByte extensively.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't talked a lot about it in this show, but now it has entered into the realm of the Linux Action Show. The SpaceX rockets run Linux, and actually, there's two different ones.
There are two.
Yeah, okay. There's the Dragon and the Falcon 9 both run Linux, and this came out in an AMA that one of the engineers, one of the software engineers, was doing on Reddit, and in here he mentions that they run Linux. And it's a custom-built version of Linux, embedded Linux. They also take advantage of Python. He says the Enterprise Information System team builds the internal software systems that make SpaceX run.
Wow.
We wear many hats, but the flagship product we develop and release is an internal web application that nearly every person in the company uses. This includes the people that are creating purchase orders and filling our part inventory, engineers creating design and work orders who work with those parts, and technicians on the floor.
That's cool. So it's not just a select group of people; the whole group of them.
It all runs on top of Linux, and they use Mono, they use SQL, they use JavaScript, and then what's interesting though is on the machines that actually process this data. Those are actually running Windows.
Oh.
They have some HP. They say later on in here they have some HP Linux workstations too, but the machines that actually connect and pull down the majority of the information from Linux boxes are
basically
Windows.
Most of the workstations are.
But come on.
But that's still cool.
Let's back up
The
here.
important stuff is being done by
a real spaceship.
Yeah.
That's going into space is running Linux.
Blue screen, Dave.
That's
use the blue screen, Dave. I mean, nobody wants that in space. No one can hear you. No one can hear you blue screen in space. So, I mean, yeah, I think that makes sense.
I'm sorry, Dave. You've plugged in a new device. I need to reboot. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Exactly.
All right, Matt. Well, I have. So this is a podcasting themed episode. You might, if you're watching the video version, have noticed this microphone that we have conspicuously placed right here.
Bling.
This might actually somehow relate to my Android pick this week.
Really?
Yes.
No, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
I'm going to see how that works.
So before we get to that, let's stop and say good morning to our sponsor this week, GoDaddy.com.
Woo!
And I feel so privileged to have Danica on our side. She, we were kind of breaking down the metrics here on the pre-show. Linux Action Show is live every Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific, and we were talking about how is Danica doing this.
No
kidding.
She
extended.
How is she getting into the building, remaining there long enough to continuously get these things?
I think you figured it out, Matt. She's digging a tunnel.
Tunnel digging.
She has a Danica tunnel.
Are we talking SSH tunneling, or are we talking tunneling?
No, I think she's digging a Danica tunnel, and she's burrowing. She burrows.
Interesting.
She burrows. And she gets in there and she gets these discounts. So she has extended the 47% offer until the 13th, which is the Wednesday of a Wednesday or Tuesday of the week this comes out. So very limited time. You can get 47% off your entire order over at GoDaddy.com. 47% off of anything is a great deal. Just use, not that one, that's that code. Just use our very special code, which is GO47. I don't have it right here somewhere. Where is it? Which is, Matt, what is it? What is it, Matt? I got it right here. Here it is, Matt.
Here we go.
Quit. I got it. Matt, I got it. It's Go47 off too.
Woohoo! All right.
Go47 off too. And it's only going to last until the 13th of February, so take advantage of it for 47% off anything you get at GoDaddy. If you're watching this after the fact, we're going to have our Linux 295 code that'll last a little bit longer, and that gets you a .com for $2.95.
Well, that first code you mentioned, so if I have renewals, I have new purchases, whatever it is, I can wrap that up like aluminum foil, and I can just bang the whole thing out at 147.
There is,
I like that.
There is no pleasure like getting 47% off a big shopping cart full of something.
That's what I'm thinking.
So go use our code GO47 off to when you're shopping, or just take advantage of our $2.95.com offer, Linux $2.95 when you check out.
Score.
If you're watching this after the 13th.
Score.
Thank you to Danica, and thank you to GoDaddy for burrowing in there, stealing those discounts, and delivering them to us.
That's great.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about my Android pick, Mr. Matt.
Oh, yes.
So it's called USB Audio Recorder Pro.
Whoa.
And I have a real big disclaimer here. It is not going to work for everybody's device.
Right.
It almost works on my Nexus 7, but it didn't actually... It saw like the device partially. Now, however, it does happen to work on my Galaxy Nexus.
Interesting.
So it depends on your Android device, and the developer is very upfront about this, and they're totally cool with refunds if it doesn't work. That's the best way to find out. Is they have a wiki page with compatibility and what mics they've tested it with. I have right here the Blue Yeti. It's a USB microphone. This is a mic that the developers actually personally own.
Oh, okay. So he's really tested it. That's awesome.
And then I'm going to combine it with a little extra magic here. I have a little, of course, I'm blanking on the name, but this is a little USB cord I got off Amazon for about $9, and it converts a standard USB plug into the mini plug that you need for your phone. And it's got some extra wiring in there to make that possible. So what all you have to do once you have the USB Audio Recorder Pro is installed is the first thing before you launch the app is you have to hook up your USB microphone.
Makes sense.
And the whole idea here would be like, you know, there's a lot of festivals coming up.
Right.
You know, Linux Fest, and there's Scale, and there's Lull, and people might want to do a little podcasting on the go, but they want to sound good. So wouldn't it be cool if you could basically do the bulk of your podcasting on your smart device?
Oh, no kidding.
So that was my philosophy here when I loaded this up. So now I've got my USB microphone plugged in.
And it looks like your mic is powered up.
Powered up. You see the light. Yeah, it's the cell phone is actually providing power to the microphone.
No, that's handy, especially on the
right.
go. I like
now, of course, that means it's going to draw your battery down a little faster.
It will.
But yeah,
that's another segment.
So now that I have that, I just I'll launch the USB Audio Pro app here, and it asks if it's okay to have access to my USB device. I say yes, and so I get a basic. Here's a countdown, and I can name my file. And if I hit monitor here, you actually see the waveforms are moving on the.
I can see the bars there at the bottom of the screen.
So
you can see them bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, it's got volume bars on there, and I can, if I hit record, I have it recording right now to a WAV file. Right, but it could also record directly to MP3 or Ogg Vorbis.
That's fantastic.
And then the other thing that's really nice, and this is saving to my SD card.
So essentially, this is podcasting in your pocket with the exception of the mic, really.
Right. And so right now, because I want to edit it in something other than the editor on here, I save it to a WAV file, and then it will share to any application in Android that supports sharing too. So email, Dropbox, Facebook, Twitter.
Oh, fantastic.
So what I've done is I recorded it on here and then saved it to my Dropbox.
Well, that's simple because then you're not having to worry about moving stuff around.
Right, and then I just open it up in Audacity on my desktop and I edit it and I'm done. And the audio quality is as good as your USB microphone. Now, like I said, this doesn't work on every device.
Right.
It doesn't work at all on my Nexus 7. It has issues on my Galaxy Nexus.
Okay, so it's not flawless for your particular phone.
The audio is a little glitchy and stuttery for about the first 30 seconds.
So maybe you have a little bit of a warm-up period.
That's what I did. So the first time I recorded it, I only recorded for 30 seconds, and I was really disappointed.
Sure.
Second time through, I recorded for about a minute, and I noticed about halfway into it, it cleared up.
Okay.
So you just start the recorder a little early. Now, you're going to have different results. I think the reason for that is the developer actually had to write his own USB driver.
Oh,
despite popular belief, Android doesn't actually support this. Not even Jelly Bean, which they claim doesn't actually support doing this. So he had to write his own driver, so it's a little hit and miss. But it's called USB Audio Recorder Pro, and I believe it's like $6.
Seems pretty reasonable,
yeah,
especially if they're going to refund you if it doesn't work. That seems real reasonable.
You know, like if this worked, like say, I know a ton of people out there have the S3 or something like that, or a Droid, and there's a lot of devices it works really good with. And if you had this and you had a little USB mic, you could totally take this on the go. I think this is... See, the chat room thinks I'm scraping the bottom for this pick, but I disagree. I actually...
Not if you're a podcaster. If you're someone that's looking to get into podcasting and you don't want to necessarily lug around a laptop or a full-size desktop or something larger, and you want something that you can take easily with you, this is a great option because it gives you more visuals than a lot of the other portable devices that are, quite frankly, a lot more expensive than $6.
Yeah, and Majo's linking in the chat room. There is a free trial version too, if you want to grab that.
There you go.
And again, honestly, like I've said a couple weeks ago, sometimes I think about canceling these picks because I know not everybody enjoys them, but if you're looking for something like this, you're probably, this is a unique pick. This guy is writing his own USB audio stack to do this. It only works with certain devices. I mean, it's early days, but it's extremely powerful. And if you think about the fact that you could install the SoundCloud app on your Android device, take a USB mic with you, and go to a conference and record an interview with somebody on your Android device, and then publish it to SoundCloud immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really powerful stuff. So I don't think this is bottom of the barrel at all. I think this is actually a really fantastic app.
Well, and we do get a lot of questions about podcasting and things of that sort. So this allows us to talk about it. And these are apps that we get excited about. We're like, oh my gosh, we want to share them with you guys because we're stoked about it.
Yeah. And, I agree too. Like with PC Wiz in the chat room, he says maybe this is the kind of thing that should be built into Android. Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be really nice.
All right. I got a desktop pick for you. Woo. And this week I've been loving KDE. I've been all about KDE these at least last couple of days. And so I thought probably time I do a Qt KDE focused desktop pick. We almost always have GTK apps and stuff like that. Always leaving the KDE guys out. And there was a big one this week. There's really two big ones. LibreOffice 4.0 came out.
That was.
Big release. So you can go check that out if you're a LibreOffice fan. And the other big one, Calligra Office 2.6 came out. And that's my pick this week, so that way I can share some love. And I want to just give a little quick demo of Calligra. So I have Calligra Words and Calligra Flow installed. And I don't think, Calligra Words is obviously pretty common. It's your standard text editor. They've changed a lot of the settings here on the right-hand side, but I actually wanted to spend a little bit of time in Calligra Flow because this is actually a little more relevant to my needs, right? So this is Calligra Flow, and one of the things that it works a lot better is the space here on the right-hand side actually works pretty well for all the stuff you need to fit in a drawing application like this. I get my different properties for the, add a shadow, add the width of all this kind of stuff.
It looks like the flow is pretty logical. You're not stuck trying to find stuff. That's nice. So
this, so if you're not familiar with Calligra Office, it's a really, really sophisticated, well-integrated Office suite. Has tons of great options. Like here's a save as, and I can send this out as an open document drawing. I can send it out as a Photoshop image. A lot of different TIFF. Basically every image option you could want. But you can also save it out as a PDF, which makes it super easy when you're interacting with a lot of Windows users, because obviously if you're sending diagrams to Windows users, they are going to be using Visio in a lot of cases. True. So Calligra Office is 2.6, just came out with tons and tons of improvements and speed improvements and fixes and all kinds of stuff. And I'll have a link to that in the show notes. You can go check them out. These guys are doing great work. And this landing just around the same time as KDE 4.10.
I think it was good timing.
Users. Yeah.
I think it was really good timing. And the page looks good. The apps look great.
Yeah.
I think it's worth checking out.
The performance is really what strikes me. They also rolled out a new application in the whole suite called Author. So there's a new app there. And there you go. They got Sheets, Stage, Flow, Plan, and Kexi.
Now, this was based on K-Office, if I'm not mistaken. So this is kind of the evolution of K-Office.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome.
You can one of the features of the new LibreOffice is it will use Firefox personas. Have you seen the screenshots?
No.
I don't think it looks that good, but there's some crazy ones out there.
OpenOffice kind of does their own thing. Yeah, I'll have thoughts on that later.
It's fine. It's fine. So I was going to make LibreOffice the pick, but I wanted to give the love to.
I think it's time to do something not expected and fresh, and I think this is a great way of going.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, Matt. Well, just a quick plug. Go over to linuxactionshow.reddit.com if you want to vote on stories or submit ideas for picks and things like that. We're always checking there. We're always trolling there. So if you have an app that you want us to cover on the show, that's the best place to get it in front of us. Is just submit a link there or vote if you see one that you like a lot.
And if you're not seeing enough of whatever that thing is that you want us to do more of, that's how you make it happen. Submit it, get it upvoted.
All right, Matt. Well, let's do the news.
It's time for the news, and the news is going to be brought to us by
Loot Crate. Boom. LootCrate.com/Linux. Get yourself a box of epic geek and gamer swag every single month.
Gotta love that.
Thank you to Loot Crate for sponsoring the news segment. And what's kind of cool is we're going to do a little giveaway.
Oh, yes.
So next month, Loot Crate is doing a Doctor Who themed box.
Yes.
And if you're a Doctor Who theme and would like to get signed up for 3 months of Loot Crate, here's what you got to do. Email Matt@JupiterBroadcasting.com your Doctor Who themed Linux desktop. Just send a screenshot.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be super complex.
It doesn't have to be super complex. Icons that maybe go with it. Maybe you've got like a trash can shaped like the
like the phone booth.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be so awesome. So if you have a Doctor Who themed desktop, email it to matt@jupiterbroadcasting.com. In the subject line, put contest. So that way, because Matt's gonna have to apply filters to get these.
That's right.
We'll pick a few of those, run them through the randomizer. We'll show some of our favorite ones on the show, and we'll be giving away 3 months of Loot Crate to the winner.
That's 3 months of Loot Crate. Doesn't require any credit card information. In the subject line, make sure the word contest is the only thing in there, and I will be able to get that and look at your stuff.
So that'll be a lot of fun.
Woo.
So,
yes.
And we're going to open up a Loot Crate towards the end of the show.
We are.
Here, so
make sure to tune in for that.
Thanks. Loot Crate, lootcrate.com/Linux, or use the code Linux when you're checking out.
Yes.
And let's talk about probably what I would say the big story that made a lot of headlines this week was Gabe. And he was at a conference that was pretty fancy, actually. I was pretty impressed with the DICE 2013 summit. Mm-hmm. And there, Gabe was talking about a lot of things. One of the things he talked about was Valve's free-to-play changes. He said that when Valve moved its games to free-to-play, they've seen a 10 times increase in the number of users and a 3 times increase in revenue. Interesting, 10x in users, only 3x in revenue.
Interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting correlation.
He says Photoshop should be a free-to-play game. But I think the thing that really grabbed a lot of attention was his comments on Linux. Should we play those, man?
I think it's worth playing.
All right, let's play Gabe himself.
One of the things we've also done is we've shipped support for Linux, and this is something that we're going to continue to expand on and work with partners on to make sure that we have the freedom to innovate, and pursue all of the kinds of opportunities that each of us see. And Linux is sort of a kind of a get-out-of-jail-free pass for our industry if we need it. Now, but what are we doing, right? So given the concepts that I've expressed, what is it that we are going to do next, right? So that's great, you did Linux, but where are you going? And I think it helps to illustrate, if you know the steps that we're doing, maybe it'll help you understand what I was describing earlier. One thing we're doing is we're working on input hardware. We think that that's a big hole.
He goes on to talk a little bit about what they're going to try to accomplish with big picture mode, the Steam box, and bringing all of that to a platform where they can kind of build on top of it. They're not sort of beholden to Apple and Microsoft.
They're looking at big picture stuff. I mean, no pun intended. But but they're definitely looking ahead at making sure that they're doing this well. Yeah. And they're not just leaving lots of holes along the way. They're really covering all their bases.
And I think the key phrase there that he used was Linux is a get out of jail free card, and he couldn't be more right.
Yes.
And I think that's that is a fundamental competitive advantage that Linux will be offering all companies that are similar to Steam in that regard, and it's just inherent to the platform.
It is.
It doesn't really matter if it's Canonical doing it, doesn't matter if it's Red Hat doing it, it's just inherent to the very platform, the fact that it's not made by a single company.
I think that he's got a taste for Linux. He found that it's like, oh, hey, we're not only able to do what we want to do, but we can do it without all the extra malarkey that they were getting with Microsoft. And I think that they're really stoked about this. And it's really exciting to see him pumped about it and to see him say Linux over and over and over and over.
And have a respective figurehead out there talking about the benefits of Linux is a huge deal.
And really believes it. That's the other thing. This isn't marketing speak. He really digs it.
Right.
It's awesome.
So while we're on the topic of Steam, we've got one more Steam story for this week. I thought this is pretty cool. Steam can now be repackaged in Linux distributions. So back in mid-November, there were concerns about packaging Valve Steam Client. Remember, they got into Arch for a little bit, but then they pulled it because they weren't sure about the licensing. Even though Valve is continuing to push Ubuntu as the primary platform for Steam, the Valve binary is packaged up by them for debbing Ubuntu. But with an update to the client this week, not only did they reduce the client's footprint by 50%,
which is awesome.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. They noted that they also are updating the licensing to allow repackaging for other Linux distributions.
And that's going to make a lot of people feel a lot better about the packaging. They're not going to have to stress about licensing.
Well, yeah, and I was just thinking, I'm looking at some of the other distributions, and pretty soon it's going to become a pretty significant disadvantage if you can't run Steam.
That's right.
I would think, right?
I would think so. Well, and the fact that Steam has addressed this early on, again, shows a commitment to not just Ubuntu, but to other distributions as well. They really dig Linux as a whole. Awesome.
Now, it's not quite the same as going to a DICE 2013 conference and having a stage and an audience speaking to, but John Carmack took to Twitter this week, and he tweeted out the following. and created quite a dust-up just from 140 characters or so. Improving Wine for Linux games seems like a better plan than lobbying for individual game developers for native ports. Why all the hate?
I can answer that real easily. The problem with Wine, as awesome as the efforts are, and there's a lot of love to be given there, is that it's not always going to remain constant from update to update or from application to application. A native application, by and large, will run more reliably.
Yeah.
Now, Wine sometimes has been known to run games faster. I've seen it happen. It's weird, but it does sometimes happen in rare cases. But usually startup is slower, and the release-to-release stuff can get a little spotty.
Well, so he got quite a bunch of responses on Twitter. People took to Reddit and said, "Oh, Carmack just did this! Hey, guys! Everybody come over here! Carmack said something stupid!
Let's get him!"
So Reddit all got together, right? And so Carmack noticed that, and he takes to Reddit. And he continues to explain his position. He says the R&D of it to port all these games to Linux just doesn't make any sense. He says, look at the Mac. The Mac theoretically has a bigger install base, and we can't even be bothered to port our games to that. He once again leaned on his old Quake Live didn't do so well, so if Quake Live didn't do well, then I don't think gaming on Linux is possible. But he said Steam for Linux is a great thing. What he argues is that there is more efficiency in making Wine, like getting industry support behind Wine and making Wine like this all-solution gaming layer platform. That you almost don't even look at it as a Windows non-emulator. You look at it as like almost how you look at DirectX. Like it's this abstraction layer that you can just write to
where it no longer becomes about the platform you're running, but more about the application you want to run, regardless of what you just don't care. It just
and the developers just keep to go along writing for Windows forever.
Yeah.
And
I see where he's coming from, but what I think what he's missing is that with all this love around the native support stuff, that by and large, this could happen on its own anyway. What he's envisioning could, in fact, happen anyhow because of the fact more adoption is, in fact, coming to Linux. So there's more motivation to care.
Here's his technical point. He says, I truly do feel that emulation of some sort... Wine is not an emulator, Carmack. I truly do feel that emulation of some sort is a proper technical direction for gaming on Linux. It is obviously pragmatic in the range of possible support, but it shouldn't have the technical stigma that it does. There really isn't much of anything special that a native port does. We still make OpenGL calls, WinSock is just BSD sockets, Windows threads become P threads, and the translation of input and audio interfaces doesn't make much difference. A good shim layer should have less far impact on performance than the variability in driver quality. Translating Direct3D to OpenGL would involve more inefficiencies, but figuring out exactly what difficulties are in making some of the Direct3 interlopes extensions for OpenGL, smooth all that stuff out, so you just make a few changes to OpenGL, you get Wine support better, and you ideally just write everything towards Windows XP, he says. Properly evangelized with Steam as a monetization platform, this is totally plausible.
So even if everything he said was spot on, which it is not, but even if it was, the end of the day, he's saying let's lock ourselves into a proprietary platform and then hope like crazy that Microsoft doesn't release something later on that breaks all this effort. That's the underlying piece.
You nailed it right there, Matt. You nailed it right there. This is a great example of how Carmack is an amazing, talented engineer, but he just might not possibly be a visionary because he doesn't even see that the platform that he's making all his money on is closing up around him. Yeah. Microsoft is phasing out XNA. Who knows what's going to happen down the road with other gaming on Microsoft? Right. They're pushing people towards Metro. They're pushing people towards the Microsoft Store. The Windows 8 backup system only backs up and restores Windows 8 Metro applications. That's a statement from Microsoft saying we're not supporting legacy applications anymore. Right. Well, Carmack, guess what? All your stuff is legacy applications, according to Steve Ballmer. So you're getting the rug pulled up from underneath you. And so, we can keep writing to this platform, but is this platform even going to be around in any substantial matter in 5 years? I mean, sure, Windows will be around, but will people be writing these Windows applications as they are today? No, I don't think so. Microsoft is pushing people to go into a different direction.
It comes down to trust and common sense and being pragmatic. The trust, don't put all your eggs into one basket. Even if you remove all the software politics stuff around it, it's just not pragmatic. It's dangerous.
Right.
Very, very dangerous.
And to be honest with you, if you keep pushing this agenda, you'll be up against the very provider of your platform because Microsoft doesn't want you doing this.
That's right.
And it's real timid right now because it's the beginning of a transition, but the Windows 8 release is the movement to these Metro apps. And you're beginning this now, so they're not pushing too hard, but 3, 4, 5 years down the road, you're going to be up against Microsoft that doesn't want you doing that on their platform anymore.
Right.
what kind of sense does that make? And then at the same time, you have Gabe, who's sitting there saying, this is our get out of jail free.
Exactly.
Gabe obviously sees the direction this is going. Gabe is saying, this is the platform we have to get behind now. Let's do it now, because I see the rainstorm is coming, but the flood isn't here yet. Exactly. So let's build the boat while we still have time.
He's looked 10 steps ahead and actually identifies where these issues are going to come up, and he's dealing with them before they become an oh no moment. Other companies will wait till that oh no moment, and it's going to be interesting.
I think this shows us that Carmack should be writing code and Gabe should be running companies.
Makes sense to me. Works for myself, yeah.
Let's talk about some great code that came out this week. KDE 4.10 was released.
Yes, it was.
And so if you've been following, have you followed much of the?
I have followed enough. You know, I have such a love-hate thing with KDE.
Yeah, oh, I know.
But it looks really good.
So I wasn't looking for a new desktop mat, but the big thing that they went through on KDE 4.10 is they took out the polish reg to basically everything from Kate to console that ships with KDE.
Good for them.
Added a ton of code efficiency, like tightened things up, made things a lot faster, fixed a lot of things in KWin, the compositor, just across the board performance improvements across every single major app that ships with KDE. They've also done some other things, like they've integrated early support for MTP support for browsing Android devices into the Dolphin file manager.
Nice, good. Yeah, good to see that.
The Dolphin. I think this is the actual first official Dolphin 1.0 release, which is kind of a big deal because you know, Dolphin is a pretty serious file browser now, and you know, when you're looking at like what GNOME was doing with Nautilus and all that kind of stuff, like, so I'll just
now for a non-KDE person, help me understand the difference between Dolphin and Conqueror. Like what, you know,
Dolphin replaces Conqueror.
I understand now. Okay.
Conqueror is gone.
Okay.
And Dolphin's here now. Okay. So what I just did while we were chatting is I just typed in a Samba address, hit enter. Opens it immediately. I went to my client. I went to my client's office. I'm browsing their file servers. They're open up immediately.
Now in GNOME, I don't see that kind of speed. Usually,
no. I mean, it's
You
instantaneous.
go to it
right?
and then you wait and hope it doesn't.
They've also got great scaling on. Look at that. See the
great.
I mean, a lot of niceties here. The other things, now this isn't necessarily new to KDE, but if you're maybe like say a Unity or a GNOME user and or whatever XFCE, and you've played with Compiz before, you know you can install the Compiz admin panel and you get extra goodies.
Yep.
Well, that's all of course built right into the KWin compositor, so I can go into all effects and I can turn on and off my effects. So I can say like I want wobbly windows. You can even do things like tell it how to render. So right now it's compositing using OpenGL with a native graphic system. But
I like that it's integrated. I think I could see a lot of people digging that.
You see this checkbox right here? Suspend desktop effects for full screen windows. So that means when game launches, all the fancy graphical effects just turn off.
That's an important setting.
Yeah,
okay.
That's really nice right there.
I like that.
And you could also just turn off all of the compositing if you
some nice OpenGL features there. You got some VSync. Yeah.
I've had a few issues, like my multi-monitor settings aren't quite as awesome as I want. I'm having some problems controlling sound. But overall, like the web browser, Reconc is so nice, so fast. Like here, like look at Hacker News is a site that never really renders well on a browser.
Sure,
looks real nice. The font looks good. Yeah. Oh, everything. It is super fast.
Seems real butter smooth.
Stuff just flies in these. In
and with the sound stuff, I have a very easy solution for that. If any of you guys are dealing with that, is if you're not using Pulse Audio, you'll find that the sound applet probably works fine. If you are using Pulse Audio, stop using the sound applet and use the Pulse Audio applet instead.
Yeah,
you won't have a problem.
It's true.
And so by that, you're good to go.
I just got to give, I mean, a hearty, you know, KDE 4.10 it's turning the point where there's just too much stuff, and it's part of it is they're finding balances. So like in some of the new applications they're doing, like here in Dolphin, right?
Okay.
You're not overwhelmed with menus. Like
no, it's not bad.
Typical KDE application, there's 100 menus there. Right. It's not bad at all.
No, actually, it's really good looking. I'm rather impressed.
Yeah, and you can turn that on if you want to. You can turn on the menu bar, but by default it's off. And they're doing things. They're trying to make things on all the new applications a little easier. So here's Dolphin Settings. It's much more straightforward. There's not the 100,000 options like there were in Conqueror. Right.
Well, and to be fair to KDE too, I would say one thing they do that is nice is that when you go to their settings, it's almost always consistent. Everything's on the left. Everything, all the actual settings themselves are always on the right. It's very uniform, and so I'll give them props for that.
The other advantage is it reminds me in some ways of using a BSD system. So when you're using FreeBSD, one of the things that kind of strikes you is everything from the kernel to grep is made by the same consistent team. So flags are generally the same. Man page formatting is generally the same. There's this inherent consistency with it. I would say the same is true for KDE. If I copy if I copy files, it uses the notification center. If I get IMs, it uses the notification center. This notification center is actually really quite nice the way they do this. The other thing I really like, and I think this might be what Kubuntu is choosing to use here, because this is installed on top of Ubuntu 12.10, is their updater. I really like the way their updater works.
That's clean.
Clean, nice, concise. You see, it can tuck stuff away,
and you're not having to scroll up and down for
And watch this. So when I actually install stuff, I watch where the progress bar comes in. It's just really nice and clean. Like, oops, except for I put the wrong password in.
And there we go.
So you see how it slides down, and then it's downloading packages, and then it'll slide back up. And then this version of Kubuntu is using the Muon Software Center too. MUON. And the cool thing about the Muon Software Center is after you install an application, it puts a little bar up here that says, would you like to run your newly installed application?
Oh, yeah.
Nice little things like
very
that.
Tight.
I've found now that I'm using KDE 4.10, I never use the activities. Like I have no, it just does not, my brain does not work that way. I use multiple desktops for sure.
Sure.
But I'm I'm using the heck out of some widgets just because I can.
Yeah, definitely. And they look nice. I mean, they're not distracting.
And as a tech guy, I like, so like here, if I hit my network interface, I know I've mentioned this before on the show, but if I hit, so here's all my wireless networks in range, right? Which is a nice display, and they're different signal level, and if they're safe, if they're protected.
That's nice.
Right.
That's a nice feature.
For average users, that's very nice. They can just, green means okay, red means scary.
Yeah.
You click on the interface, though, and you actually start getting bar graphs of your transmitted data. You get your IP address right here. You see I'm connected at 1 gigabit on interface 0. There's a lot of really nice just information.
All the stuff you would have to bounce to a terminal to get, you can actually get from this little widget.
Or run maybe like a special applet. This is just built into the KDE Network Manager. And so what's cool is when I'm copying files, I can just pop this up and see, well, what kind of transfer rate am I getting on those files? Or like if I'm streaming, how much is this stream taking?
Does it give you drops and all that? I mean,
oh yeah, you see it all right there.
Nice.
Okay. And here you go. So here in the battery, so here when I click on battery, it brings up my battery widget, tells me it's 96% charged, that my adapter's plugged in, and then I have my brightness control right here in the applet, which is super nice too, right? And I also can just execute a sleep command right there. So, and then like here's the volume control. I bring up the volume control. I get sound sliders for different applications. Sure. Now, unfortunately, for some reason on this system, it seems to be convinced it only wants to control my HDMI.
Yeah, again, it's that whole. One thing KDE does not do well with is pulse audio. That's one bug that I have.
Now the chat room's asking the number one question. This is the thing that the KDE team has focused on the most with this release is performance. They're asking, what is performance like? It is hard for me to gauge on the Bonobo Extreme because everything is fast.
Yeah, it's an extreme machine. I mean, it's kind of really hard. It's like,
you could put like the biggest dog on here and it's still good. However, that said, everything. I mean, you can watch this as I'm using it. Everything happens instantaneously, right? I mean, I fire up. Well, it's pretty instantaneous. It's very fast, and the functionality is very. What I feel like is KDE 4.10 is maybe not the fast. It's not XFCE or LXDE fast, right? But it's also so configurable. But they have made the configuration methods much more approachable. Like, and some of these features, again, are not necessarily brand new to KDE, but it's just the combination of features they've had around for a while and things like that. Like if I want a new cursor theme, I can just say get new theme. It opens up a dialog.
That I like.
Goes out and finds all of the cursor themes that have been submitted to the KDE Look project.
That's something that's attractive.
Right, and it just downloads and installs it. Okay. Same with color themes and everything. You just go out there and say, you know what, I'd like.
So whatever it is, you can get more of it.
Yeah. Okay. So like here's another example. Say I want a new color scheme. Get new color scheme. Boom. Goes out there, finds new color schemes. If you want widgets, say you want a new widget, you say add widget, right? And you can say get new widgets.
Wow.
Download widgets. Goes out, downloads the latest list, and I can rate them by ratings, downloads. Again, this is not a brand new feature in 4.10.
Right.
But it's the combination of these established features with the easier configuration, with the improved performance, that in the end, it actually makes KDE feel extremely personal because I can tweak it just the way I like it. I have just the applets I want. It's notifying me in a very subtle way, and I can control that. KDE 4.10 sort of makes it feel like all of the other Linux desktops are maybe a couple of years behind.
Well, it feels very modern. I mean, that's the nice thing is you don't feel like you're using something dated where people are looking over your shoulder saying, "Ooh, what's that?" You know, I mean, they're looking at it saying, "Ooh, that's pretty."
It feels like it's built on a super modern plumbing system, but it's still giving me all of the customizable control and classic interface elements that the older desktops gave me.
Right.
So I get all of the new toys, and I'm talking toys that some of the other desktops don't have anything like, and I get all of the power.
And you can fetch and install them without having to do a lot of dancing around.
So I'm sticking with KDE 4.10 at least until 13.04 for Ubuntu comes out. I got to tell you, what this makes me think of is the next OpenSUSE release, because OpenSUSE is always a solid KDE implementation. They're going to ship it with KDE 4.10.
I think that's a good choice.
That could be a really great
that's
release.
a really good choice.
Yeah. All right, Matt. Good. Well, so that's the little mini review of KDE 4.10 there. Why don't we wrap up with the story about Secure Boot? The Linux Foundation has released their Secure Boot system as promised. It was slightly delayed. They were waiting on Microsoft to deliver, and they have. And they've changed things up a little bit, but to make things easy for folks, they're putting together a mini USB image that's bootable. So you'll be able to download this or write it, and it'll launch that little mini USB thing can launch an EFI shell where you can load the boot environment. So this will actually kind of tie in with an email question we have later on in the show. And this is a story that we've been tracking in these new laptops that are shipping with Secure Boot.
Right.
This is hopefully going to be an answer that, obviously, the latest. Like we just mentioned, new OpenSUSE. I don't know what their support for this is going to be.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see when integration begins.
I don't know
to
if
place.
maybe they missed the window. I don't know.
Could be, or maybe they just decided this is the approach they want to take to it.
But cheers to the Linux Foundation, and now Linux gets to play on some of that new hardware.
Gotta love that.
All right, Matt. Well, that's all the news for this week. Okay, Matt, let's talk about podcasting under Linux, the state of media production under Linux, and all of those kind of goodies. Hopefully, by the end of this segment, people will walk away. They'll have an idea how to record, how to publish, and some of the easy, cheap, and competitive ways to host their files.
That's right.
And a few other things. And before we get to all of that, we should thank our segment sponsor, System76.com. System76, makers of fine machines designed to run Linux. Now, they're born with Ubuntu, as they like to say. I have a Bonobo Extreme that I love. This is my daily commuter right here, and also the machine I run to drive all the visuals here for the show. However, if I was going to make a recommendation for a podcasting rig, like, say you were shopping and you were going to do some podcasting, I would probably go with either the Ratel Performance, I think is how you say it.
Yeah.
That's a great box. We've seen that box. It's got great performance. You can put PCI cards in it for like extended sound cards.
Definitely.
Quiet. But the other thing I was thinking is maybe the Sable Complete, because again, I come back to quiet. And if you want something where you're going to have like your show notes up and you're doing audio editing and all these kinds of things, this would be perfect for that.
I would also say the Wild Dog, while it's a slightly higher up machine, is also whisper quiet. I mean, it's really,
we use the Wild Dog for all kinds of things. And of course, then if you're going to go video or do some Blender action, I'd probably say go Leopard Extreme.
Leopard Extreme's awesome because you can literally be rocking two VMs at the same time you're editing video. I mean, it's that fast.
It's like the desktop equivalent of this laptop. Like, you know how there's Monster. This is a Monster laptop. This is a Monster desktop. We've actually had this in-house. We reviewed this one. We love this one. So thank you to System76. Go grab yourself a machine, especially if you're doing things like content production. That's one of the reasons I bought a System76 is I don't want to have to worry about hassling with stupid little things on my machine. I want to focus on making shows and just have my machine work.
Have an update come down and goof you up. They take care of it. It's good.
Why don't we start with what is the #1 common question we get on the show? And that is, how do you record Skype calls under Linux?
It's a good question.
That is a good question. And then we'll get to how you can edit them and how you can publish them. But let's say you have a buddy or you have somebody you want to interview. This is a great way to start a podcast, is get a really good interview. And you want to record that call and you want to sound as good as possible and you're doing it under Linux. Well, Matt has used Skype Call Recorder and I've been trying it out. I got to say, I'm pretty impressed.
It's pretty cool. One disclaimer I want to make, and it's a very important disclaimer, is that do not, under any circumstances, record a phone call or a Skype conversation with someone without their express consent.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, and even then, it wouldn't hurt to check out your local laws.
Yeah. Yeah,
just gotta put that out there.
You can get busted. You can't get because it's true. I suppose you could use this not for an interview if you
could. But however, if you are doing a consensual interview, it's a fantastic tool.
I like consensual interviews, man.
I like consensual.
So Skype Call Recorder is a little program that you load, and it's available for Windows, Linux, and Mac.
Yes, it's pretty much available for everybody. It works really well.
It ties in with Skype, and you have a few options here once you get it installed. I had to install libSSL. You might have to install libSSL on your machine to get it to work. But if you have any problems running Skype Call Recorder, just launch it from the terminal and it'll kick out the error.
Right.
And then once you get the errors resolved, you can run it from your
So
menu.
if you're missing a dependency, it's going to tell you what it is. It's easy.
So you install Skype Call Recorder, and you can set obviously where the calls get recorded to and how the file name format with a little template here. And probably the most important thing is what file format you want. I would recommend everybody, unless you don't have the hard drive space, record in WAV.
I would always recommend WAV. And the reason why is because like FLAC or anything else, that's not compressed, you're able to do what what you need to with it without messing with the sound quality later.
And call recorder's 3 options are WAV, MP3, or OGG. And you could do MP3 or OGG if you are going to take the file and then immediately publish it.
And you're going to be doing it to everything's going to remain consistent. You're not going up or down as far as your bit rate.
Yeah, and you're not worried about like if you got something too loud and you want to bring the levels back down. If you want to maybe do like if you want to chop the beginning and the end, you want to add it to a compilation. You want to record it as a WAV. If you're going to publish it immediately, like to SoundCloud or online,
that's fine.
Do as an MP3 totally or an OGG. That's totally cool. So anyways, once you get those options set in Skype Call Recorder, you just you launch Skype and you make a call. So I'm going to try it out here. We'll try calling my smartphone here. And I have, so I believe, now, am I right in that Call Recorder will actually just start up immediately once it gets on the call?
Once it's been run the first time, yes.
Okay, so there we go. Oh, yeah. Whoa. Oh, sorry about that. So there's Skype Call Recorder. You see it pops up and it says that, the Galaxy Nexus mic is really loud.
Okay.
So it's Skype Call Recorder pops up and says Skype Call Recorder has started recording the call with Toph Fisher, that's me, and do you wish to record it? I say yes, continue recording, and then it says don't forget it's illegal to call somebody or to record somebody if they don't know.
And that option is a setting in the preferences. It's by default, it's always going to prompt you. If you want it to be automatic, which I don't recommend, that's up to you.
Right. All right, so I'm going to go off mic, and I'm going to record a few things so we get some WAV files here. So
this ought to be interesting.
Yeah, let's see how this goes. Hello. Matt, are you there?
Oh, my God.
Hey, Matt. I'm talking to you on the internet. Hey, Matt. All right, so there we go. So I recorded that. Hopefully that wasn't obnoxious, right, Matt?
That was horrible.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Oh, I didn't realize. So now when I hang up, Skype Recorder automatically stops recording in the background. And what's really cool about this is you used to have to do like jack audio and all this kind of stuff to pull this off, right?
Yeah. And you had to connect to it.
Right. So now if I go into my home folder here, and if by the settings in Skype Call Recorder, I was saving to a folder called Skype Calls.
Yep. That's their default, which is handy.
So there's my call with Toph Fisher, and it automatically puts the timestamp on there because that's how we configured the template. And now I could just toss it into something like Audacity or whatever's. So here, I'll do that. Fire up Audacity. Oh, Audacity's already running. Oh, yes. So there we go. So where we have our Skype call right here in Audacity, and I could edit it as I see fit. Like I already ran it through a compressor, so that way it kind of normalized it out, and I could do like a normalize here, so that way the volume level is consistent. That's always a good idea.
It is a very good idea.
And normalize. And now I've got
right here while I'm not doing podcasts.
There's my Skype call recording, right?
While I'm doing a podcast.
So
gotta love that.
Yeah, you gotta love that. And now in theory, we're all done. Let's say this was like an hour-long interview, right, or whatever.
And you've made your trims and you did all the stuff.
Yeah, and I've added my music bumps here in the beginning and the end. And again, you could do all of that, right? Like you could go in,
add some new tracks
in Audacity. You could add an audio track. You could bring in your music file. You place one here at the beginning. You place one here at the end. And for a simple podcast, you're literally done.
Well, and what's awesome about Audacity too is that, let's say we have our existing stereo track there at the top, and you want to drag in music. You don't have to actually physically go and add a track. You just drag the music into it. It should, in fact,
let's try it.
Yeah, it should actually add a separate deal.
And this is the other thing I like about it too is Audacity will ask you, and this is something you want to pay attention to. It'll say, do you want to make a copy of the file, or do you want to read directly from the file? Now, the reason why you might want to make a copy of the file if you have the storage space is because then you're doing non-destructive editing. You can always go back to your original. However, if you're pretty confident in what you're doing because you're a baller, you can read directly from the file, and that's faster because you don't have to wait for it to copy.
And it labels it safer and faster, and I like that because it helps people associate which benefit they're getting.
Oh, see, and it automatically added a track. I didn't have to.
Yeah,
so
and that was what's awesome about it.
So you can see here, here's
Hello.
Yeah. It's kind of a cool effect.
That's very cool.
I like that. So yeah, so there you go. So now let's take this, and you say you want to pump it up on SoundCloud, because SoundCloud's a great way to host for free. You just inside Audacity. I honestly recommend, if you have all your stuff put together, I really recommend the Audacity encoder, because it's just using standard MP3 or OGG Vorbis libraries on the back end.
It does a nice job.
You can send it directly out to MP3 here. And the other thing that's really great is we could say, so we'll call this the Hi Matt, Hi Matt podcast for the win, right?
There we go. That'll work.
Podcast for the win. And so now I save that out, and you can set your MP3s. I'm going to do a 96 kilobit MP3. Doesn't need to be too.
No.
And that's probably even overkill.
A lot of times you do a 64.
Yeah, let's do 64. Yep, let's do 64. I'm going to do joint stereo. I've always found constant bit rates to be a little more reliable on portable devices. And now I hit save, and Audacity brings up the tag stuff. So I will say, the artist was Chris Fisher. and it was my first podcast, so I'm really excited. And you
So
put all
this is
your,
like your ID3 tags?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to recommend a different ID3 tag editor. But if you just want to put the basic stuff in there, you can do that at this point. Now, if you want to add more stuff, I'll show you how to do that. Because honestly, you can take this a little further. And then you say, okay. And it warns you that it's going to mix it down into 2 tracks. And now, boom, there it goes. It's exporting out this minute-long thing, or whatever it is,
to progress bar.
To a 64 kilobyte MP3 file that I can now go up and publish.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, and this could have been another example we have here is instead of doing a Skype recording, you could have done something like use this USB Yeti microphone. It's got pretty good. It's got pretty good audio on it. And Matt, are you kind of in the same camp I am, where when it comes to good quality audio, you just kind of have to use USB?
That's what I've been found. You know, for myself, that's what I found.
Yeah.
And of course, Audacity is great because you can, in fact, record directly into it, and you can choose to either control that via Pulse, or if you want to just select it by device.
So here I am, and I'm talking into the Yeti microphone, and you can see I'm recording directly into Audacity, and this will actually sound pretty decent. I'm not using the mic very well, so it's not going to sound that great. But the advantage of using a USB microphone over the built-in sound card is there is just some inherent machine noise because the sound card is integrated into the same board that your motherboard and your CPU and your video card and all that stuff that pulls a ton of power. Well, guess what? It adds machine noise. So if you use something like a USB device, any kind of USB sound device, but the thing I like about this Yeti microphone is, and again, I would maintain this is not a great microphone, but if you're just getting started and you need a USB mic that you know is going to work with Linux, well, you just saw me using it right here with Linux. And the nice thing about the Yeti, and we'll probably take this to Linux Fest with us.
I would think so.
Is it has a built-in mute switch, so if you need to cough, it's right there. So that's really nice. You can just toggle your mute. On the back, it has gain control, so you can increase the sensitivity of the microphone or you can bring it down. It also has different modes for the microphone. It has a cardio mode, it has direct mode, it has room mode, it has 2-person mode, so you can have it between 2 people.
You can have dual direction, omnidirectional, I mean, really whatever you want.
A room mic, whatever you might want there.
Very cool.
So this is really nice for somebody who maybe is gonna sit down in a room and you just want 2 people to be able to use a mic. You're not going to sound amazing with this. But it's going to get the job done. The other thing about the Yeti is its design, is that it sits up a little bit. So you can put it on your desk right in front of your face, right in front of your computer monitor, and the built-in stand brings it up to the level so it's in front of your mouth, at least kind of like so.
Yeah, I
still prop it up a little bit when I use it, but it at least gets it at the right height level. The other thing that's nice, the last little bit about the Yeti, and again, this is just a nice USB mic that works with Linux. It's not my favorite mic, but it'll definitely get the job done. It has a built-in audio monitoring port, so you can hear yourself. You can see, like right now, I have headphones in. It's extremely important, so that way you know. That way I know when I'm doing this, I know that I'm using bad microphone technique right now.
Exactly.
Right, so I can hear this is bad microphone technique, and so I know I need to get over on the microphone.
You can make like dynamic, live, real-time adjustments while you're speaking into it.
I can back off. I can, the other thing that's nice is it has a mounting hole, so you can stick stuff in that hole, and then you can have it standing on a pole, which is nice. So like how my microphone are mounted on stands, this microphone could be too. So you could actually use it in a more consistent, permanent setting.
Gotta love that.
So, I got to say, is for the price, we'll put a link to this in the show notes if you want to pick it up and support the show.
For an entry-level podcaster, this is where to go. And it has advantages over a USB headset because you don't look like someone off of Star Wars.
Well, and the audio out will also act as a sound card.
Exactly.
So what's really great is if you're maybe working with somebody over Skype, they're remote, and you guys are doing a show together, and maybe you're using Skype Recorder to record that. If you get them using a USB Yeti, have them use the headphones, so that way they don't have Skype coming back over their speakers. What Skype does is if Skype detects feedback coming over the speakers, it starts auto-gating. So it'll start turning their audio on and off, and that causes delays in the conversation. So if you ever had something where somebody can't talk at the same time somebody else is talking on a Skype call, you're probably getting some gating there. So if all of your audio is pumped through headphones, then the Skype microphone doesn't pick up itself, so it doesn't auto-mute. So that's the great thing about having a built-in monitor is your Skype guest, like if your other podcast, your other host, he could have his headphone plugs in. He won't have the Skype call coming back over his speakers. That improves sound quality. It improves the Skype conversation back and forth. It's the number one thing you can really do to improve audio quality on a Skype call.
Absolutely. Well, and
other than have bandwidth.
Well, and that's a very important piece actually. Bandwidth does matter, even if it's not the fastest. I've seen people do really good audio podcasts over ISDN. Leo Laporte used to do that.
That's how most radio hosts do it.
And because it's consistent. It's not super awesome fast.
Now the chat room is asking about using Bluetooth audio headphones with Linux, and I totally get that is super appealing because then you're not constricted by wires. Problem is the Bluetooth bandwidth is just not high enough to have good enough sounding audio for recording.
It's fine for a phone conversation. You want to talk to friends.
Because you're limited by the quality of phone.
And so you can do it, but it's going to sound like it's over Bluetooth.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty poor. Another thing I was going to mention, folks were asking about doing video. Two things just real quick that are easy to do. First and foremost, audio and video, separate recordings, separate streams. Do not do it in the same bit because you will have a big old huge gigantic delay because of the way the Linux sound system works. I would recommend record directly into Audacity or Skype Recorder for your audio, and then do your video with, you can actually set VLC to do a screen capture, or you can use Kazam. Here's the magic, and I did this with a stand-up comedian group, a troupe of stand-up comedians in California, actually, at one point. And what we did is we did the audio and video separately, and then once you line up just at one spot with your audio and video, before you do any editing, just line everything up perfectly in one spot, then begin your trimming with your video and your audio.
The technical term for that, and you'll probably see me use this.
I've never heard technical term.
Well, you'll probably see me use this when we're at Linux Fest. The technical term is the clap.
The cloud.
You clap.
You clap. Oh, clap.
You clap really loud when all your mics are going and all your recordings are going. And then you find that clap in the audio waveform and you sync up the video waveform with the audio waveform to the clap. And then from that point, you're synced up from then on. That's
works.
Literally how they do it.
I didn't know that.
In the biz.
I've been doing it the hard way all these years. But yeah, that works really well. I've been like trying to get the lip syncing thing down and all this, but it works really well. And you end up with like the greatest audios you want because you're able to use equipment you want. It's really good.
Yeah, like if you're using like a DSLR, you can use the DSLR for amazing video and then you use real microphones for the audio. And it really works well.
And so if you're wanting to record Skype, I would say VLC or Kazam. Just do a little windowy action like you would normally, and just do your audio separately, and you're good to go. Easy.
Probably something people need to think about when they're starting a podcast is consistent tagging. Because if you're going to have a long-running podcast, and this is something I've struggled with myself, is you want the tagging to be consistent. That way, when somebody's looking at it in their multimedia, Amarok, iTunes. Whatever the MP3 player is, you want everything to look uniform in the list because people get OCD about that kind of stuff. So that's where I recommend EasyTag. Now, there's a lot of tag editors available for Linux. There's a lot of tag editors in the world. EasyTag is the best tag editor in the world for any operating system out there. At least I think so. Not only is it extremely fast in the way that it has a sort of a multi-column file browser, so if you're doing a lot of MP3 files, it's quick to find them. Or if you have multiple versions, an OGG, MP3, MP3 high bitrate, MP3 low bitrate, you can bring them all in here and you can edit them all at once and then copy and paste those tags across multiple files. So that way each version is consistent. Yes. Yeah. You can also do things like add photos so that way the MP3 file has a cover art. So when they're looking at their MP3 player, they see the cover art while it's playing. So all those things you can do with EasyTag. You can see right here. Here's my high mat podcast for the win.
Oh, see, that's just tight. I love that.
Here's the stuff I did add in Amarok, but now I can go through and fill in a lot of the details. And I always this
is real nice for someone who has library management going on their desktop.
So this is how I say Jupiter Broadcasting is the artist, and I'll go say and I always put the year in there, and I always try to put for the genre. I always try to add podcast. So tag your files with genre podcast. That way, any of the jukeboxes out there that automatically sort podcasts, that's the field they're looking at, is that genre tag.
I love that.
You put podcast in there, and then you can write it out to the file, and now you've tagged it. There you go. Bob's your uncle.
Yeah.
Oh, you can also. the other thing that's neat, by the way, unrelated.
Yeah.
The other thing that's neat about EasyTag is you can. As you're working on these, you can also generate M3U playlists.
Oh, that's dynamite. I think podcasters would love that.
Yeah, that's nice. So there you go. Feature. It's EasyTag. So once I've exported out from Audacity, I usually recommend EasyTag.
Yep.
Now, before we go too far, why don't we talk a little video editing? We're not totally focusing on video editing for this because I still think
it's you either can do it or you can't. I mean, it's just not really podcasting specific.
Right.
And before I forget, one thing someone brought up, they said Kazam was buggy. Real easy solution to that. First and foremost, if you're not recording audio with Kazam, it's real simple. And also, most importantly, use the unstable PPA if you're in Ubuntu. If you're using Kazam stable, that's why you're having problems. So
the new version's a little better off.
Much better.
Huh?
Yeah. It just and when all else fails and Kazam just makes you want to punch things and you just can't get it to work, that's fine. Use VLC. It's super simple. There's a wizard. It's easy.
When all else fails, Matt, and you want to freak out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't we talk a little, just quick video.
Yep.
If you're going to get down and you're going to do some editing, maybe, and think podcast, right? So podcast, you have maybe an intro sequence, you have the meat of the show, maybe some credits, maybe a bump. What do you think of maybe using something like Kadian Live for that?
I think that's a great, especially for just for trimming, editing. If you need to do some chroma key, especially if you want to do some blurring, there's some great effects there. That's where it really shines. I think
they have a ton of effects in Kadian Live. I mean, so I'm looking at
the
them right
titling
here.
stinks to high heaven. I would use something else, but as far as the other functionality, I think is really good.
Yeah, and then so. In what scenario would you use OpenShot over, say, Kadian Live, or vice versa?
OpenShot I use primarily for quick trimming and editing, just because it has a real nice snap to it, and I can get it to run pretty well. If I'm doing a lot of intensive stuff, and of course titling. I love to do the Blender titling in OpenShot.
Yeah, I was going to mention titling. So that's how I've been using OpenShot. Is I've been using OpenShot for titling, and then I export out a file from that and I bring it into another project. But to be honest, I still don't really find either of Kadian Live or OpenShot quite to where I want them yet.
No, there's certain functionality that is not. It's not quite as smooth as, say, like some of the more proprietary editors out there. But I would say that if you're looking for something that's going to be able to take a whole bunch of timelines, honestly, I'm going to probably say Kadian Live is probably going to be more stable in that regard, because if you're doing like, a whole bunch of them at once. Overall, but especially, that's just been my experience. But then again, if you're doing something quick, OpenShot's fantastic. It's very visual. It's very easy to use.
Right.
So.
And as KDE users, because I'm a KDE user now, Kadian Live.
But I use both. I got libraries for everything and everything. Yeah, that's all good.
I got one quick little secret app that isn't going to work for most people, but if you can get it to work, check out the Levelator from the Conversations Network. This is a really easy way. This is a normalizer, a compressor, and a limiter all in one. So it goes through, it scans the file, it brings everybody's audio levels up to about the same. So that way, if you have like somebody who maybe was a little off mic, it tries to bring everything up. It tries to cut out some background noise.
Right.
The Linux version requires an old version of like Python. I use the Windows version under Wine, but it's a little unstable.
Right. Okay, that's cool.
So I don't tend to use it much. What I use it for is when I'm producing clips for Unfilter, and I want all my clips to have the same volume level. I run them all through Levelator. So that's what
Interesting.
Levelator is.
That's actually really nice because it gives you a nice professional, consistent.
Yeah. I've been happy with that. All right, now why don't we talk a little hosting?
Ah, yes.
I got a surprise for you on hosting.
Okay.
Tell me what you think of this one.
All right.
Archive.org.
Yes, that's a really good free option, and it's pretty reliable.
So I wonder if we search for Jupiter Broadcasting. It's not 100% reliable, but you're right.
It's not bad for free.
And in terms of what you pay for, it's really good. I mean, about twice a year they go down. It's not that bad. It's really not that bad.
Not that bad. Another paid option that I've had reasonable success that specializes in video and audio podcasting, and I still have stuff up there actually, is hipcast.com. Hipcast.com. They used to be, what did they used to call themselves? Eric Rice was their media guy for a long time. I can't think of their name. Anyway, Hipcast is what they are now, and basically they'll give you the video and audio RSS feeds. They give you the whole,
nice.
Everything. Your tagging, the whole shebang. And more importantly, you can record directly from your phone to Hipcast.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you can call into a telephone number and do it that way as well. So there's a lot of great options there. Now, I like it more for audio than I do video. I don't think the video's really awesome. Their video player is kind of weak, but you also have the option of doing just video enclosures like with MP4.
So it sounds like Hipcast is similar to Libsyn, which is what I've used a lot.
It is. It's exactly like Libsyn. And Libsyn, are they doing video yet? I know they used to.
Oh, yeah.
It's been years. That's where
they're offering. They're offering HTML5 player. I don't use it for that. The problem with Libsyn is they're hosting, the biggest storage you can get is 1.5 gigs.
Oh, yeah.
For us, that's going to that lasts us a few days.
Hipcast, you can go bigger than that. So I'd say that might be be an option.
But however, one nice thing about Libsyn is they don't charge you for bandwidth
that's
usage.
Nice. Okay.
So you could have a blowout month with Libsyn and use terabytes of bandwidth.
That's important.
They're only charging you for the storage.
That's actually a big consideration.
Yeah, because you don't want to get penalized if all of a sudden your podcast gets really successful.
Yes, that's actually okay. That I think that's kind of where you need to look at it. If you're going to keep a pretty niche, compartmentalized podcast, doesn't matter. But yeah, if you're going to have a blowout, I think that matters a lot.
They also their player, if you're into this. So one thing you could do with their player is you could have ads markers in the video.
Oh, wow.
And it will play ads, so you can always have current ads in your podcast.
Wow.
So
see, I remember when these guys were in beta. That's when I was using them. I was like, wow, they've grown up.
They give you they also generate RSS feeds.
Cool. Okay.
They will also, depending on your account level, they will also, you can upload like a high res video file or a high bitrate audio file.
Right.
And then their service will encode the iPod version, the low bitrate version. And then there is the other thing that they're offering. And I've had, we've used this a bit. We actually have apps in the iTunes App Store. I don't think they're offering, no, they are offering Android now.
Are they? Okay.
So the other thing they do is they offer a templated system where you can build an app around your podcast if it's hosted on Libsyn.
Right.
Because they have the feed information, they have the artwork information, they have the show title information, they have all of the shows hosted. So they will actually generate and build an iOS or Android app and submit it to the App Store for you, and then they do a rev share.
Well, and also, back in the day, iTunes submissions used to be a nightmare. I believe Libsyn and Hipcast both have made that easier.
Yeah, definitely.
It used to be horrible.
You have to get at least a $20 plan with Libsyn.
But it's worth it, especially with that.
That's pretty good, right?
Yeah, with the overages and stuff. I mean, not having to worry about that.
So you see here so you can start at a $5 a month plan. Then you get 50 megabytes of storage. You could use unlimited bandwidth, but you get 50 megabytes. So for all of my accounts, I have the 1500 version.
Oh, totally.
That includes the app. So we have for some of our shows, we have apps in the iTunes store.
That's nice.
Which I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah,
they just make them
happens,
after
right?
I provide the assets.
Free distribution, gotta love that. Well, and a lot of people are probably thinking, well, can't I just upload this to my regular server? You can, but it's not going to work well. It's going to end badly for you, both in overages and performance.
You can. I mean,
it's
like
really
if you have a small podcast that not a lot of people are downloading, you could just throw it on your own web server. The problem is these podcast files are big, and though that is a constant connection for as long as the web browser or whatever the client is downloading that file, so that means that's not a connection that's available for web visitors. So if you get a lot of people downloading, your website becomes unresponsive.
Exactly, and it affects your website. And a lot of folks are going to be on maybe a shared hosting situation or something like that. It's just not really designed for that. There's just a lot of overhead going on. And so, Libsyn is the way to go. Hipcast is good as well. Good stuff.
Libsyn and Hipcast are awesome. Archive.org is great too. It does it for free. Archive.org also offers an embedded HTML5 player. So,
might even be a good place to start. You could start there. Or if it was me personally, because migration's a nightmare, I'd probably start with something like Libsyn and then just up my plan as I need it.
That's the other nice thing is you can do that. You can just up it as you need it. The one other thing about Archive.org is they will also encode OGG Theora versions for you.
Oh,
that's how we produce the OGG Theora version of the Linux Action Show over at Archive.org.
Yeah, I used to have some stuff up on Archive. A couple of monologues I did. One was, anyway. You have to look for those. There's some weird stuff on there.
There's some searching. So just to review, Audacity is my preferred audio under Linux. Ardour is great, but I like Audacity because it's simple, bang, bang, get in, get out. I encode directly from Audacity. Apply your compressor or normalizer while you're in there. You can do your Skype recording with Skype Recorder. We have a link to that in the show notes.
Right.
Tag with MP3 tag if you like, and then go host it on archive.org or Libsyn or Hipcast.
And of course, again, if you're wanting to do video capture along with that, do your audio separate as we talked about, and you can use VLC, just capture whatever's on your desktop or however you want to do that. Or you can also use your, Kazam or whatever else you want.
Two other little services I guess I want to mention is I think you can't really talk about starting brand new from podcasting. Maybe you want to have multiple people without at least giving Google Plus Hangouts some consideration.
That's true.
You know, the nice thing about Google Plus Hangouts is it takes care of a lot of the audio things.
They have plugin packs now, too.
Yeah, you can put lower thirds on people. You can record directly to YouTube. You can stream the whole thing live. And the other thing that's cool is people have control over muting their mic, and if they accidentally leave it muted, it'll remind them. One of the biggest problems I have when I have a group call is people will mute their mic to cough, and then they forget to unmute, and they just start talking, and they don't realize that they've muted their microphone, where Google Plus little Hangout says, you're talking, but I don't think you realize your microphone is muted right now.
And with those extension packs, you can actually admin these folks real easily. I mean,
you can mute individual people, which is really cool. So you'll probably see more Google Hangout stuff with us in the future. But if you're starting out,
it's a good approach. And if you're concerned about YouTube concerns, one thing to remember is you could, if you're recording at a reasonably high quality and you're using decent equipment, record it to YouTube, and you could theoretically export that out if you needed to. Not an ideal situation, but it's possible.
Neither Matt or I are a fan of sort of betting the farm on YouTube. In the last week, the Linux Action Show has had 5 videos taken down from YouTube, and it's one of those things where you just, if that's your main distribution platform, you're sort of betting on that horse, and if they screw something up with their automated bots, then your show's not available for people to watch or listen to.
And that's why we kind of take a more diversified approach to things, just to cover our bases.
Yep. So go host it somewhere besides your own website. That helps defer bandwidth costs, and it lets those services be dedicated. They'll generate RSS feeds for you. They'll generate the stats that you need. They'll give you, in some cases, apps. They'll give you all kinds of stuff. So use a different service and have fun with this stuff.
Exactly. And they got great uptime. Got to love that.
And, really, I got to say, when I started the Linux Action Show, where everything has come. Audacity kind of still feels the same, but even Audacity and its plugins have gotten better. But like, it was so hit and miss with USB hardware in the past. But now it's like if you have one of those USB mics that where you plug it into a Windows and a Mac and it just works, it's probably just going to work on Linux too. Stuff has gotten a lot better out there for you guys. So go check all this stuff out. We'll have links to all the things we talked about in the show notes.
Gotta love that.
All right, Matt, that's the Linux Action Show's look at podcasting under Linux. That brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. Now we're going to read some emails before we get out of here. And we thought maybe we'd have a little fun, and we got another loot crate. We thought we'd open that up because I like opening up goodies.
Yes.
And then we got a couple of like public service announcements I want to make too that people need to be aware about that could impact, well, the internet and the future of podcasting.
Affects us all.
Yeah, let's talk about that stuff. But first, Matt, let's have fun. Let's open up our loot crates. So you get one and I get one.
Yep.
This is cool. And
cratage with the lootage.
I have no idea what's in here, but I'm going to find out. Careful there, Matt. Careful. All right, so like every loot crate I see, I get a little box here of a description of what... Ooh, there's some...
Helpful.
There's energy gum in here. That got my attention.
We have a Master Chief helmet tee.
I got a bumper sticker.
Got some Node Studios action here.
There's apparently a Rubik's Cube themed keychain and also a beginner's guide to the Rubik's Cube, which tells me actually how to dominate the Rubik's Cube like a professional. So if I wanted to pick up ladies. And we got a little Minecraft sticker action. This is cool.
Okay. I think it's a slap bracelet, but I'm having troubles with it.
A hacker bumper sticker. I like
Blue
that.
team.
All right, but this is. I want to stick this. Should I stick this on my?
Oh, I totally. You should see what I did to my.
Should I put it on my? Should I put it on my System 76?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And then you got your hacker. Yeah, that's nice. Rubik's Cubage.
I'm totally gonna put it on my. I'm gonna put the hacker. Oh man, I hope some of the other crates have
Minecraft stickers. Loving that. Yeah, and you got the and here's the meat and potatoes right here.
Yeah, the shirt.
Got the shirt.
Yes, that's cool.
Master Chief.
Look at that. That's neat.
Isn't that awesome? Fantastic. I'll be wearing that.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to mention also about T-shirts with future crates is that they are going to be now allowing you to elect sizes. So you can actually choose the size you want.
That's a good color,
awesome.
too. I like that.
And, of course, the upcoming contest we have.
Oh, yeah, the Doctor Who themed desktop. Email those to Matt at JupiterBroadcasting.com.
And subject line is contest.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Go ahead and do that. Yep. And we will be giving away 3 months of 3 months.
Look at this, Matt.
Crate.
Pwn. Energy gum for gamers. It's called Pwn.
I love that.
I got to open this up. Hold on. Let's see.
That's awesome.
All right, so... It's green, so it probably
Energy
keys
gum
out.
for gamers, really.
Look at that.
I love that.
It says it's mint flavored. It's good.
Yeah?
It's better than the stuff I have now. It has 55 milligrams of caffeine and 2 calories.
Oh, so you're all going
It also has
that's
vitamin
awesome.
B3.
Oh, that's cool. So you get your vitamins with your caffeine. You got some Rubik's Cube action here. That's pretty cool. Gnarly. Liking that. Loving it.
That's good.
Got your... Yeah, this is really cool. I love the packaging for it, too.
All right,
like
so I'm going to put this hacker sticker on.
Yeah.
Or should I put it on like crooked, or how should I do this?
Oh, I always think real estate, especially if you want to add stickers later on. So I'd maybe do it kind of just like that.
Right here?
Yeah. And then that way you can do some crooked stickers later on. That's usually how I roll.
Well,
with my stickers.
Right. All right. What do you think? Like right here? What do you think, chat room?
Yeah.
Or should I do it like that, or should I do it like
should
that?
we do crooked or straight with the hacker sticker?
What do you think, chat room?
Sticker. No.
Some chat room says no. They don't want me to, because it's so beautiful. They don't want me to. Crooked. They're saying crooked, Matt.
Crooked.
Yeah, they're saying.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'd say crooked then.
The bottom corner. They're saying bottom, but then it won't be on screen. I'm gonna put it.
Yeah, do maybe we'll
put it over
on
here,
the top there.
like this.
Love that.
Do it like that. There we go.
There it is.
we go. And now we got it on the laptop. Oh, except for I got a little bubble in there. I'll have to fine tune it after the show. Yeah.
Squeeze her out.
Oh, I'll squeeze one out. I'll squeeze it out after the show, Matt. Don't worry about it. Oh,
Squeeze her out.
See, now we have a pound no in the chat room. So they're saying it's too beautiful.
You got to dress up here.
I'm hoping the next loot crates have more stickers in them.
They will. Well, the next loot crate's going to be a Doctor Who themed situation, so that is going to be pretty snazzy. That's going to be pretty exciting, and I imagine there's going to be some cool Doctor Who stuff. And so, definitely want to get on that. And by going to Loot Crate Linux,
lootcrate.com/Linux. You guys,
you will be supporting the show.
All right. So
appreciate that.
Speaking of supporting the show.
Yes.
There is a patent troll going around. Have you heard about this?
Oh, yes.
And he's already going after How Things Work and the Adam Carolla, or they are going after the Adam Carolla podcast and How Things Work. And they're essentially, what's funny is they filed for the patent. I was already doing podcasts by the time they filed for the patent. So I've been doing podcasts longer than they've owned the patent.
Well, I do, and I have some thoughts on this, so you can share.
Well, I just want to make people aware this is something that we're concerned about. We're going to be keeping an eye on, and we have a link in the show notes to a blog post by the EFF, and they're starting to get involved. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see this go as like the big podcast networks might try to band together and get people to start up a legal fund.
Two things I see happening. One, these guys are going after folks with money.
Yeah.
That's
why they're going after Adam Carolla.
That's why they're going after Adam Carolla.
How things work is a discovery property.
Yep, exactly. So they're going after things with money. Two, in order to, and they're also going after them in their home state so they can, in fact, go after them. I think at this point it's a wait-and-see kind of situation.
Yeah.
We're just going to kind of wait and see how it all works out.
I just wanted to say it is on our, we've had people contact us because they're concerned. I just want to say, yes, it is on our radar.
Yes.
The other thing that's on our radar, this will probably get more coverage on Unfiltered. It's not really going to be covered on this show. And then if we start getting technical details, we'll cover it on TechSnap. But CISPA, the Cyber Information Security and Protection Act, I believe it stands for, is coming back. And the big wrinkle in CISPA is what it does is it indemnifies corporations for sharing your personal information and private usage habits with the government in the overall hope of finding cybersecurity compromises and issues and things like that. So the idea is just for an example, maybe your ISP logs every website you go to, and then they could provide that to the government. And if they leak some sort of personally identifiable information, they would be indemnified from any legal action that you could take on them.
Which means they can get sloppy and not worry about it.
Right, because they're indemnified.
Yep.
We've seen what happens when the banks get indemnified from what they've done and things like that. So we'll probably be covering the political angle of this on Unfilter and the technical angle of this on TechSnap. But also, just want you to know the Linux Action Show is also aware of that. Yeah, that was submitted to our
terrible, unfortunate stuff. Hopefully, we'll learn from our mistakes and stop voting these folks into office.
Yeah, Lamar Smith, the author of SOPA, was voted back in.
Yeah, so that's why I think I become so detached and bitter about it. Is that it's like, well, it's kind of like, well, why do I keep getting hit by cars when I play in the street? Well, let's think about that for a minute. Well, so we got to really rethink our approach to things in life, I think.
Yeah.
So.
I want to just read a couple of emails that were sent into linuxactionshow@jupiterbroadcasting.com, and then we'll wrap up, okay?
Cool.
Kyle wrote in and said, have you guys heard of Unison? He says it's a syncing app, and it's free, it's open source, has many capabilities to help you get rid of using Dropbox. It does require some setup, but it still wins because there's no space cap, and there's no price. Also, if you use a network-attached storage as your primary server, you can keep all of your other computers in sync with Unison. Nice. If you've heard of that before, you might want to take a look.
I have heard of it, and I've been meaning to kind of dive deep into it because it's something that really I found the idea of really attractive, actually.
So another one that is kind of gaining some notoriety is SparkleShare. SparkleShare is also similar to Dropbox. We've talked about it a little bit before on the show, and it also, again, it's self-hosted. It's open source.
This isn't like something that like Twilight vampires are using. And this isn't. I have visions of like
because of Sparkle.
I'm just saying. Unless Blade's going to be involved in this, I don't know.
Okay. No, I don't think so. And they make a version available for Linux, Mac,
that's cool.
and the Windows.
Okay.
And you get that. And I'm also monitoring another project which looks cooler than all of these that I can't talk about yet.
Okay.
But
that could be cool.
When the embargo, quote unquote, if you'll call it that, has been lifted, I'll be giving a review of it on the show.
Nice.
All right, Ika writes in with a live USB question. Hey, Chris and Matt, thanks for the awesome show you're giving all the geeks out there. I've been using Linux for 2.5 years, watching your show for about a year now, and it's my favorite source of Linux news and tips. But recently, I've been contemplating the idea of a portable OS on a USB thumb drive to use on other people's computers without having to deal with their not as awesome Linux systems. I tried Puppy, but it's not really what I'm looking for. What I want is a system that boots off a USB thumb drive, has all of the apps that I need, which includes Guitar Pro and links, and most importantly, syncs the files that I save on my Ubuntu One storage. And he wants to be able to pick off where he left off. He says, I've never played with Arch, but I'm willing to learn how to set it up if that's the best way to do it. I can also give Puppy another shot, but boy, is that system ugly and annoying.
Puppy is fast, but it is just absolutely, you look at it sideways when you're updating a package and it breaks. So, yeah. I don't have a specific idea in mind other than maybe one of the lighter weight desktops based on Ubuntu, because then, Ubuntu One becomes a natural fit at that point.
Right, right. Chat room is recommending Tails, Tails. Is
that based on Puppy? Maybe?
I would also say, I don't know if you've played with UNetbootin, but the nice thing about UNetbootin is it actually has images built in that it can download and then write them to a USB thumb drive. That'll get you rolling, which is good.
Yeah. Okay.
But Tails is not based on.
Oh, Puppy. It's not. See, and I would have thought, Puppy Tales, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, that would have been that would be like a great like spin-off, right?
Totally.
Yeah, and or Tailspin.
Tailspin.
You know, you ever watch
Shirt Tails?
You ever watch that?
Yeah.
But if you recall, Tails is well known for being a privacy-based distribution.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Especially with it being portable. Yeah.
Yeah, so check that out.
Nice.
Yeah.
That might be a good fit.
The Portis is also being recommended. Chat room also says we should suggest trying Descent OS.
Okay.
Brian
Little Descent in
2040.
there.
Brian 2040 in the chat room makes Descent OS. I think we're going to have Brian on in a future episode and chat about making a distro. And
That would
like
be really cool, actually.
Anonymous wrote in and asked about installing Linux on a Samsung Series Chrome OS laptop. Says he hasn't been watching long, but he's recently got himself a nice new shiny Samsung Series 7. Chronos, not Chrome OS laptop. Chronos laptop. It's a 3rd gen i7, 8 gigs of RAM. It's got an NVIDIA Optimus, which we know can be a little tricky, and a GMA 4000. He says he loves it, but he wants to install Linux on there. He's never touched UEFI, and I've been researching it since I got it. I'd love to get it, Arch on this thing, but it adds a whole new layer of complication.
I can't comment on it because, as you said, there's always the if you do something wrong, something could go horribly wrong. And honestly, when it comes to Chromebooks, you almost are just better off sticking with what they've given you, unless you're really well versed in.
It's not a Chromebook. It's
Chronos.
It's the model. It's a Chronos model.
If it's just a Samsung, then
yeah. I would wonder if it could do biosimulation.
Yeah,
if you could turn off UEFI,
probably can. Samsung's a pretty decent company about stuff like that. I think it's probably possible. If you can turn that off, then boom, good.
But if you've been following the news, and he includes links to some of the news stories. Right. You know that we've had stories just last week of people bricking their laptop.
Yeah.
We know so far there's not even really a fix. There's a workaround, but that workaround depends on biosimulation by your computer. So look into what biosimulation options you have.
That sounds like good
Be
advice.
careful with this. Be careful with this because this is early days. You just saw the Linux Foundation just announced their secure boot option. So it's early days. But at the flip side is we need guys like you
to kind of take the dive, right?
And you know, submit the bugs when you run into them, and you are blazing a trail for other followers.
Yeah,
and
submit an article somewhere. Seriously,
and it really is. This is how it works in Linux. We actually are the boots on the ground for some of this stuff.
Definitely, because then if you found it to be effective and you found a solution, sharing that with others will mean that maybe others will be able to enjoy that as well. It's kind of cool.
Now, if you want to email us, just do so with linuxactionshow@jupiterbroadcasting.com with your question, comment, or idea, or start a thread in our subreddit over at linuxactionshow.reddit.com, or hit that contact link at the top of our website and choose Jupiter Broadcasting from the dropdown. But Matt, what are you up to this week?
As always, you can find me at datamation.com. Scroll down to open source. In addition, a buddy of mine, Mike Parks, is actually looking for some web development work. This is someone that I've worked with for years. He's actually worked with him kind of by proxy through Lockernome and other areas. And he's a talented developer I would recommend getting in contact with. You can visit some of his skills by going to MattHartley/Mike.
That's cool.
MattHartley.com/Mike.
Mike Hartley and MattHartley.com.
MattHartley.com/Mike. And you can always find that in the show notes. So check out his skill set. He's looking for work, and he might just be the match you're looking for.
Well, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
So, great thing about that kind of work, too, is with the web, you can do it from anywhere.
He's good. He's damn good.
I have just a couple of things. So on Tuesday, we will be launching the TechSnap 100 limited edition T-shirt that's only going to be available until TechSnap 100 goes on the air.
Nice.
And we have a link in the show notes right now. It doesn't work. It's a campaign that's only going to run for 21 days. After 21 days, the shirt will no longer be available. But starting Tuesday, if you go to teespring.com/TechSnap100, you can order the shirt.
Ooh.
We might have a couple of
these.
So
this is really kind of a collector's thing because this is a
collector's item.
Yeah.
So
you want a piece of history.
I might have one or two at Linux Fest if you ask for it. Maybe.
We're talking maybe secret handshakes, code words.
Code word, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. More on that.
Yeah. So, but look for that. We're going to do a limited run TechSnap 100 shirt, limited edition for just 21 days. It'll only be available.
That's very nice.
And I want to give another mention to our show Unfilter, which has just been getting. We have been steadily refining this program to make it better and better and better. Episode 36 just came out on Friday. And we launched a crowdfunding effort. So instead of taking advertising in Unfilter, we've gone the direction of crowdfunding.
Nice.
So if you're curious about what we're doing there, if you haven't caught up on the show recently, go listen to Unfilter episode 36, Ethical Murder. Go give that a listen and see what we're doing with the crowdfunding options and see if you want to participate. And, go get informed on what's going on in the regular world, not just the tech world.
And all the crowdfunding stuff's in the show notes for them?
It is, Matt. Did you scroll right down there?
Nice.
And we have some options right there in the show notes for the crowdfunding. We have also kind of the details breakdown of what we're doing there in the show notes as well. But we go into more details in the actual episode. Sweet. All right, Matt. Well, the Linux Action Show is live on Sundays at 10 a.m. Pacific over at jblive.tv and jblive.info for the audio. I always recommend you join us live because you get about a 2.5-hour show.
Yes.
And we also have some exclusive stuff that we run on the stream before and after and during the show that doesn't make it in the recording either because of copyright issues or whatever it might be.
And I've been known to do stuff like this and do like a Geordie LaForge thing. I've done like Mr. T Mohawk.
You are kind of crazy.
I'm crazy. There's anarchy happening. You're missing out.
So there's a lot more fun if you are able to join us live. But if not, don't worry. The Linux Action Show comes out every Sunday afternoon over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. You can subscribe and then you get the show automatically and you don't even have to worry about it. All right?
Gotta love the cloud for that. Whoop.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. We'll see you right back here next week. It's the way of the future. It's the way of the future. It's the way of the future. It's the way of the future, Matt. It's the way of the future.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
All right.
Okay.
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 All right.
All right.
All right.
Okay.